ओके, तो बताओ हमको। एक सेकंड।
क्लास चल रहा है।
यस, तो Anil, I know, has not started with SS7 yet. Ayushi, what about you? Have you started watching the videos?
Hi. I just got the access yesterday. I'm not
Okay,
started yet. Yeah.
okay, all right. So Ayushi, you've already given SP5, or you are not going to give SP5?
Yeah, I have already given SP. I have cleared SP5.
Okay,
And
recently or time okay?
I cleared SP5 in last year's attempt. I think May 24.
Okay, okay, so not
Sorry.
too long.
November 24. Yes, November 24.
So not too long back.
Yes, yes, yes. I just prepared for SP6 also. I've given the exam this time.
It's okay.
Yeah.
So I'm just sharing my screen. We'll start with chapter 1 for SS7 today. So what we are going to do is कि first few chapters हम लोग पूरा करेंगे, and then पूरा करेंगे मतलब we'll be going through the CMP, we'll be discussing all the important parts, and after that you will be doing a reading by yourself, and उसके बाद कोई doubts होगा तो next class में we can discuss those. That will be for the first few chapters. उसके बाद में once you get that head start, in fact you don't even need to wait. For example, Sundays को class हो रहा है, so today we'll do chapter 1, and if we get time then we might do a little of chapter 2 as well. वो करने के बाद during the week you will definitely read whatever we have done today, but you can also start watching classes from chapter 8 onwards, 7 onwards. ठीक है, till chapter 7 we will be doing over here. Chapter 7 onwards just previous diet में ही I have taught everything, मतलब I बहुत डिटेल में पूरा कंटेंट कराया है, तो 7 onwards you can start watching. ऐसा कोई रिलेशन नहीं है from the first few chapters. Okay, alright. So पहले तो SS7 है क्या? It is advanced level of investment and finance. So now we've already done the orientation class. So we know कि it is focusing, one part of it is focusing on all the asset classes, all the different products that are available to us, which we can use as investments. We also have all the regulatory, monetary, political influences, etc. उसके बाद we have investment strategy making, investment management, investment consulting, all those things, right? So now the first chapter is nothing but just the introduction. Most of it is not relevant because it's just general things. Okay. Overview of financial and investment markets. We start directly from section 3. Now, financial and investment markets में a very important concept is efficient markets and competitive markets. This is again something जो CM2 में we have covered efficient market hypothesis, जिसमें detail में भी discuss कि efficient markets में क्या सब होना चाहिए and how in the real world markets are not efficient, they are competitive. So anyone remembers what are efficient markets? Anyone?
Basically, efficient markets are of three types. The weak,
Mm-hmm.
weak, strong, and semi-strong markets, right?
Okay.
So the weak efficient markets are the markets where technical analysis or these kinds of things cannot be used to generate extra normal profit.
Why?
Because the historical price information is already there in the current price.
Okay, good.
Yeah,
And
semi strong, we cannot generate profits by all the information which is there in public domain, as that information is already incorporated into the current price. In strongly efficient markets, we cannot even generate extra normal profits by using insider information, as every information is already a part of the market price. This is what I understand by EMH.
good. That's very good. So yes, weak form तो efficient markets का concept क्या है? So what you spoke about was the three different types of efficient market hypothesis or three different types of efficiencies in the market. But efficient markets होता क्या? Efficient markets, the word efficient basically entails कि जो भी information available है, that is already being incorporated in the price, which means कि the pricing of instruments is totally efficient. कोई भी टाइप का मिस प्राइसिंग अवेलेबल नहीं है, which means the scope of arbitrage is not there in efficient markets. Pricing is एकदम foolproof. Everything has been incorporated. And then there are three types of efficiency, like you said, weak, semi-strong, and strong. Weak में the weak में there is still scope of arbitrage, which means कि only technical analysis काम नहीं करेगा, लेकिन fundamental analysis के through you can still make supernormal profits. What are supernormal profits? Supernormal profits are profits which you are making over and above what is possible in an efficient market. तो उसको बोलते हैं competitive market, where pricing is मतलब where investors or where participants in the market still have a competitive advantage. कि by putting in some sort of extra effort or using some sort of extra information, they can still make profits. Right? So that is a competitive market. So weak form efficiency में using fundamental analysis, participants can make supernormal profits. Semi-strong efficient market में all publicly available information is there, which means कि खाली जो insider information है वो available नहीं है, but कोई न्यूज में कुछ आ रहा है या कोई अर्निंग्स रिपोर्ट में कुछ है, कोई फाइनेंशियल रिपोर्ट में कुछ है, all of that has already been incorporated in pricing that particular instrument. So in such a market, the only way is insider information, which is obviously illegal. So in a semi-strong market, the only way is कि if you have some information that is not available to the public, but then of course, यहाँ पे भी you cannot use that information since that would be illegal. And lastly, strong form efficiency में, strong form efficiency is the most efficient market. इसमें public as well as private or insider information is incorporated. तो यहाँ पे there is no way at all where any investor can earn excess returns or can earn supernormal profits. Even if they have some insider knowledge, that would be useless क्योंकि वो भी price में reflect हो चुका है. What is this capital asset pricing model? What do you know about CAPM?
Hello.
Yes.
Yeah. So by CAPM, what I understand is basically it provides me a method to calculate the return on a portfolio when I am given when I am given with the market return, the risk-free rate, and other measures which are required to calculate the return on the portfolio. So it has like completely able to recall. We have the capital market line and the security market line, which we use with the help of beta. So basically, beta is the measure of systematic risk, and yeah.
So CAPM basically only makes use of beta, which is the systematic risk. What does CAPM assume? CAPM assumes कि all the unsystematic risk is diversified away. It is all diversified away. तो कोई भी security का return calculate करने के time, the only thing which remains is how sensitive is that security to the market, which is captured by beta. That is captured by beta, and depending on that sensitivity, we see कि over and above the market return, how much return are we going to get? So as per CAPM, return on any equity is equal to the risk-free rate plus something excess, which is जो overall market दे रहा है above the risk-free rate, but not the entire. This is the market risk premium. This is the market risk premium, but पूरा market risk premium नहीं मिलेगा. Only a part of it, or maybe more, depending on how sensitive is that particular investment or that particular security sensitive to the market, which means if a particular security is very sensitive to the market, तो मान लो कि whatever the market, however the market moves, that security 80% follows the market. So the beta would be somewhere around 8. Now it can happen that there is a security जो market में जो भी हो रहा है उसको वो amplify कर रहा है. Amplify कर रहा है मतलब अगर market बढ़ रहा है तो वो और ज्यादा speed से बढ़ रहा है. तो let's say उसका beta would be something around 1.2. So that is the concept of beta. ठीक है. If there's a security जो कि मार्केट से जीरो सेंसिटिविटी रखता है, which means it is completely away from all kinds of risks in the system or in the market, तो उसका बीटा होगा 0, which would mean कि वो सिक्योरिटी सिर्फ आपको रिस्क फ्री रिटर्न देगा. There would be no concept of or no element of market risk premium in it. And beta of 1 would mean कि that particular security is mirroring market movements, which means कि market जैसा move करेगा वो security भी वैसे ही move करेगा exactly. So उसका beta 1 होगा तो पूरा market risk premium का element रहेगा. Clear? Now why is the efficiency of markets important to us as investors or investment managers, investment consultants, whatever? Before making any strategy, हम लोग को पहले एक narrative या एक setting बनाना होता है, which is basically the environment in which we are going to work. Accordingly, we will have to take all decisions. So सबसे पहला step would be to see कि whatever environment we are working in, if it is efficient, then we have to see कि कौन सा type का strategies can get us supernormal profits or excess returns, if at all. But if it is a competitive market, then we'll have to see कि क्या type का strategies, because वो competition कौन से part से आ रहे. Okay. So another perspective on markets is that they are highly competitive. Market participants are typically competing against each other for the best prices and best returns. Before getting involved, potential participants need to ask themselves whether they have a competitive advantage over other participants, and uske according they get the best strategy for them to pursue. And if they feel कि competitive advantage नहीं है, then they can use something like a capital asset pricing model to get the best outcome. Now again, two approaches है, competitive approach and consensus approach. Consensus, like the word says, majority के जैसे, कि जो भी majority का approach है, similar approach all the investors will take. This provides them with a theoretical framework to help them make investment decisions in a way they do not have to engage in the competitive aspect of markets. So they ignore all competition. It is implicitly dependent on the soundness of the underlying theory. The approach also requires that at least some other participants are taking the competitive approach. जब तक market में एक भी कंपेटिटिव पार्टिसिपेंट नहीं है, तब तक मार्केट में मूवमेंट नहीं होगा. बिकॉज मार्केट में प्राइस मूवमेंट्स के लिए यू विल ऑलवेज नीड समवन who is wanting to adjust the prices by different strategies. If there is not even one person, तो फिर the entire market will remain silent. Even the people who have taken the consensus approach, they need people जो competitive approach में है, ताकि वो movements के through उन लोग एक basic return अपना ले ले. So now this part is talking about quantitative and qualitative, which we basically are going to discuss throughout the curriculum. कि क्या क्या एस्पेक्ट्स हम लोग को डिस्कस करना है व्हेन जजिंग एनी काइंड ऑफ इन्वेस्टमेंट. तो फॉर एग्जांपल यहाँ पे एक शेयर ए का एग्जांपल है. सम विल बी क्वांटिटेटिव एस्पेक्ट, सम विल हैव क्वालिटेटिव एस्पेक्ट्स. गियरिंग रेशियो क्या होता है? Right. Gearing ratio is basically proportion of debt in the capital. And how does it compare to other similar companies? Now, this is a quantitative thing because you can directly put a value to it. Now, what are your thoughts about gearing ratio? Should it be high? Should it be low? क्या होना चाहिए? And why so?
It could be high up to a certain level because it enhances the return to the shareholders, but not above that because the debt should be covered by sufficient amount of assets. So in that way, but it can be high up to a certain level.
Correct. So gearing ratio should not be very low also, but it should not be very high either. Why so? Because it should not be very high also, क्योंकि end of the day debt is a two-edged sword. If you are not using it, then you are losing out on leverage, because debt is ideally less costly equity से, but at the same time it is also a very risky thing. क्यों? क्योंकि it is a fixed charge on the company's earnings. So to some extent where you can meet your interest payments or your debt servicing costs, तब तक you should raise the debt, because उससे you are bringing down your overall cost of capital. But after some point you should stop raising debt, because then आपका cost of capital increase तो हो गई, because your debt rates will keep going up the more and more debt you raise. Plus at the same time your company will also become very risky, because अगर थोड़ा भी earnings impact हुआ, then you will not be able to meet your debt servicing costs. Ideal ratio is, anyone knows क्या है ideal ratio? Debt equity 2:1. For every 1 rupee of equity you have, you can raise 2 rupees of debt. What has the profits growth been over the last 3 years, and what are the current forecasts for profit growth? Again, a quantitative aspect. What are the long-term political risks to the sector? This is a qualitative aspect. How does the management strategy and focus compare to other competitors, and is that likely to leave the company in a better position several years down the road? Again, qualitative. Are there any global threats to the prices of key raw materials? How has the share price performed recently relative to its competitors? And does this make the share relatively cheap or expensive? So what is this one talking about? शेयर relatively cheap और expensive कैसे decide होता है? What is one parameter or one metric which can be used to decide whether a share is cheap or expensive compared to its competitors, obviously.
P ratio.
It's the P ratio, which is the price to earnings ratio. We see कि कितना the company is earning and how many times, which is the multiple, कि उसका कितना times price is being charged. So let's say if उसका 10 times price is being charged, while for other companies the P ratio is, let's say, 8 times of the earnings or 5 times of the earning, then this means that the share is very expensive, right? अच्छा, any doubts अभी तक जो भी किए हैं उस पे? Now, narratives versus analysis. What is a narrative? Narrative, like I said, कि क्या environment है? What is the bigger picture in which you are operating? And analysis क्या है? Once you have set your narrative, once you have set the context, उसके बाद you do the analysis, and वो analysis is going to be heavily dependent on your narrative. For example, if your narrative has said कि competitive market है, so all your analysis, all your strategy building, everything will take place accordingly. If you say कि it's an efficient market, then all the analysis and strategies will be built around that. Often we are not directly aware of the narratives, but understanding them is essential, as these narratives dominate and limit any analysis that we carry out. When making investment decisions, given the high degree of uncertainty, it can be more important to understand the narrative, including its limitations, and to get the narrative right than to achieve 100% accuracy and correctness in calculations. It needs to be deep and bright enough to show the big picture without taking sides. For example, investment analysts might argue about the merits or otherwise of a particular investment. The arguments might not be about the accuracy of the calculations carried out, but rather about the narrative within which they were carried out. So you can say that narrative is something very similar to the assumptions that you are making. Because everything that we are doing is somewhat of estimations. Estimations में you do not have a sure shot correct or a sure shot wrong. It is all debate based. तो आप जो भी assumptions बना रहे हो उसके बारे में जो argument है, that is the argument of the narrative. Take the example of bailing out banks during the financial crisis in Greece or Ireland. Some argued that banks are essential for the economies to function, that they are good and need to be bailed out. Others had a different narrative, that bankers were parasites and banks should be allowed to go bankrupt. Whether an investment analyst recommended investing into bank shares at that time would have been heavily influenced by the narratives that analysts accepted. A simple and shallow narrative usually has another simple narrative contracting it. In practice, this prevents a constructive argument on merits of either narrative. During the debates, those involved usually took one side or the other, that either the banks were good or they were bad, and then proceeded to give their analysis as to why they considered this. Either one would have resulted in a poor outcome, क्योंकि या तो banks को bail out करते या नहीं करते. And there were two sides. Both countries went bankrupt, bailing out their banks, but would also have gone bankrupt if they had let their banks collapse. A deeper, brighter narrative could have been to consider banks as a bad bacteria in the stomach of a capitalist economy, and that the two countries were dealing with bad bacteria that had gotten significantly too large over time, morphing into an infection that was killing the economy. This would have facilitated debate around removing the bad bacteria but keeping enough for the economy to still function. Instead, no banks were allowed to fail, and the cost involved resulted in exacerbated economic problems. So, what are they saying basically? कि जब ग्रीस एंड आयरलैंड दोनों में बैंकरप्ट banks bankrupt होने वाले थे. The governments or the regulators, they, not the regulators, the government and the central bank, they stepped in to bail them out. Now the entire argument was whether they should be bailed out or whether they should not be bailed out. अगर बेल आउट करेंगे तो क्या होगा कि बैंक्स को एक लीवे मिल जाएगा. That okay, even if we mess up, now how will they mess up? Why do banks go bankrupt? They will go bankrupt because of their own doings. कि they are leveraging unnecessarily. उन लोग के पास जितना मनी है उससे कई ज्यादा they are lending out, which is why, and they are lending out to, let's say, subprime sub risks, which means parties that do not have required levels of credit worthiness. Unko they are lending, which is why default rates are going up. They are lending too much, because of which they are not being able to meet the demand deposits. If people are coming to ask for money from the bank, they don't have that amount of money ready with them because they have lent it all. All these are the main reasons for a bank to go bankrupt. So one side was saying that banks should be allowed to go bankrupt, and the other side was saying that we should bail them out so that the economy gets saved. Now a deeper narrative क्या होता? According to them, a deeper narrative would have been कि banks को restrict कर दो. If banks have been doing these kinds of things that have led them to bankruptcy, they should not be eliminated completely, which means they should not be allowed to just go bankrupt. But at the same time, they should not be supported fully either, which means they should not be bailed out completely. You should take a middle solution कि because banks are important for the economy, so you should keep the banks, but you should only help them enough so that they know कि आगे से they cannot overstep their limits. Got it? Next, we have the investment market participants. So a lot of participants are there, starting right from the individual or retail investors usually, कि individuals and households हैं. Then we have groups of individuals. Groups of individuals are all the funds and schemes. Then we have firms and companies, which are the corporates. तो इसीलिए corporate finance के ऊपर उन लोग का अलग study होता है. Individuals, households with their individuality have separate requirements, they have separate strategy reasons, there are separate ways to make strategies, and groups of individuals also differ from that. Firms and companies के लिए there is proper corporate finance where उनका financial and investment decisions are driven by very different factors. Then we have financial organizations. Again, financial organizations are also some sort of corporates, but बाकी corporates से उन लोग का investment and finance needs would be very different. So they would be a different kind of participants. Now, what are FinOgs? They are banks, insurance companies, hedge funds, all these people operating in the finance sector. Why are they also different? Because they can also create new instruments that depend on the cash flows and associated risks of other instruments. Then we have non-financial organizations with significant monies to invest, जिनको we can also call they are basically the big investor, institutional investors जिसको बोलते हैं. These are the institutional investors. For example, we have endowment funds, sovereign wealth funds, charities. Now they are not corporates. They are organizations, but they are not financial organizations. लेकिन उनके पास बहुत money है to invest, जिसको हम लोग qualified institutional buyers बोलते हैं, which is QIBs. Now, what are sovereign wealth funds?
Basically, the government-owned wealth funds, I feel, because example, there is like a state-run pension scheme, so that would be a part of a sovereign wealth fund.
पेंशन स्कीम का यहाँ पे कोई नीड नहीं है, बट yes, it is a fund that belongs to the government, hence the name sovereign also.
Means it's an example. Pension scheme is an example.
Okay, right. Those sovereign wealth funds are all the, but pension schemes are not part of SWFs. SWFs are different. Pension schemes होता है government funded, but they are different. Sovereign wealth funds का अलग अलग purposes होते हैं. Sovereign wealth funds may be collecting or saving up on wealth to take care of inequality. They can be doing it for some particular resource, कि कोई एक resource धीरे धीरे die down हो रहा है, तो उसको protect करने के लिए. We'll come to SWFs also later in one of the chapters. थोड़ा सा detail में SWF भी करेंगे कि क्या क्या purpose के लिए sovereign wealth funds are set up and how they are used. But again, they are non-financial organizations that have significant amount of money to be invested. उसके बाद we have the government and the regulatory bodies. फिर we have the financial intermediaries. Intermediaries कौन है? Intermediaries are all those people in the market जिन लोग gap को bridge कर रहे हैं. So we start with brokers. Who are brokers? They are basically people जिन लोग deals design करते हैं and retail investors या institutional investors के behalf पे they go and crack those deals. And how do they earn? They earn कि जो भी deal का value है उसका एक percentage या उस पे commission charge करके. They are basically like middlemen. Market makers or market dealers, these are willing to quote two-way bid offer prices and are willing to buy and sell at the respective price, that is to take the opposite position to the agent. They are aiming to earn money from their bid offer spreads. Now what are bid offer spreads? For example, कोई भी एक market maker या market dealer है for let's say instrument A, वो क्या करेगा? वो एक bid offer price करेगा, which would be 80-60. Now 80-60, 80 is the bid price. What is the bid price? Bid price is the price. Sorry, उल्टा लिख दिया. 60-80. Bid price is what they are bidding, which means the price at which the market maker is willing to buy. And offer price is the price they are offering. Okay? कि किस price पे offer किया जा रहा है. They are willing to sell at this price. This is the buy price for them and this is the sell price for them. Which means if someone wants to go, if someone has instrument A, they want to liquidate it. क्या price पे liquidate करेंगे? 60 पे. क्योंकि market maker will buy at 60. And at the same time, there is someone who needs instrument A. They will have to go and buy at 80 from them. Because market makers are willing to sell at 80. And how will they earn? They will buy at 60, sell at 80. जो ये difference है, that is the bid offer spread. ये bid offer spread of 20 पे they will earn. Dealer, market maker, trader can usually used interchangeably. Dealer is an intermediary who executes a client's order but has little or no responsibility for the subsequent position, which means वो खाली client का orders को execute कर रहा है, कोई responsibility नहीं ले रहा. Market maker is responsible for the positions created, albeit usually limited in size of the positions they can build up, which means they have the authority to enter into positions and they're also responsible for it. But usually just size of the positions होते हैं, they are very limited in nature. A trader is responsible for the positions created and can decide to build positions other than those created at the initiative of other agents and may or may not be making a market. Achha, why are they again and again referring to making a market? Making a market is because using this bid offer जो market makers use करते हैं, they are basically setting the prices. Hence they are called market makers. Then we have the exchanges. We have exchanges. Exchanges are those places जहाँ पे trades can take place. They are arranged and executed. People can meet required counterparties, and they are very highly regulated. Online trading platforms है. Online trading platforms बहुत सारे अब आ गए, especially with high frequency trading, etc. All these, the names you can see here, are not in the Indian context. They are more in the American or UK context. Alternative trading systems, electronic communication networks, multilateral trading facilities, all of them are trading platforms जो कि online exchanges जैसे. उसके बाद we have professional investment decision makers, where usually we step in. Investment analysts or traders who analyze and then make judgments on investments कि whether this is going to go up, this is going to go down, या फिर क्या time frame होगा. It can be limited to researching and advocating certain instruments rather than also making the decisions. The analysts and traders usually don't make the decisions. They usually just give a view कि analyze करके कि this is the path we think this particular instrument or this particular investment is going to follow in the future. Investment strategists, they aim to create the narrative. Now, investment analysts and traders क्या कर रहे? They focus on one particular investment or they focus on one particular instrument. But investment strategists focus on one particular client usually, which means that they start with the entire narrative, and then inside that narrative, they make decisions or they give advice. Investment management companies and other financial institutions. They are corporate entities managing the funds of their clients, and they will include risk management professionals as well as investment professionals. Those taking investment decisions to buy or sell are often referred to as investment managers, and they are similar to that of a trader, except that they are managing other people's monies. So we have the consultants and the advisors. They are typically employed by financial institutions like investment banks or by specialist advisory or consulting firms. उसके बाद other participants are clearing houses. Clearing houses are basically set in the middle ताकि जितना भी transactions हो रहे हैं, they can be set off, and also counterparty risk can be eliminated. Custodians who provide services. Custodians will basically have different kind of services, different kinds of roles, right from taking care or safeguarding your assets to उनका income को संभालना, उनसे related कुछ भी अगर actions है तो वो करना. All of those are covered by the custodians who provide services to ensure that deals are settled and positions are not stolen and only used once for collateral. Sometimes the distinctions can be blurred. For example, in fiduciary management. Now, what is fiduciary management? Again, something we'll do in greater detail later. Fiduciary word comes out of trust. It comes out of trust, which means कि fiduciary management में, when you are giving your money to someone, you're giving it to them with full trust and full authority. कि they can invest it or they can manage it in whatever way they want. तो उसमें they carry out the role of both an investment advisor and an investment manager. Okay. यहाँ पे थोड़ा सा behavioral bias है, which is again going to be covered in greater detail. But let's look at these 5-6. क्या क्या behavioral biases है? पहला बात, behavioral biases होते क्या है? Behavioral biases में how people's psychology usually works, or how certain decisions are taken based on their psychology, based on their thinking, based on their behavior, and वो कैसे एक bias में result करते हैं. The first one is inertia. Inertia का मतलब क्या होता है? Being stuck. So not changing investment portfolios over time despite changes in risk tolerance and other factors. Why? Because you don't want to move from your current situation. You are very comfortable in your current situation. That is inertia. Taking default options. ये क्या bias है? This is a bias where if you have an option of customizing something a little, you are more likely to not do it. More likely to not customize it and just take whatever is available by default, even when you should actually be customizing it. Naive diversification. An individual may simply count the number of portfolio holdings without recognizing that several investments may be following a similar strategy or theme or may be offsetting each other. Diversification का point क्या है? Diversification का point is कि unsystematic risk जो है वो drive away हो जाए. That is the point of diversification, so that your overall risk comes down. But बहुत बार only if you are investing in, let's say, 10 securities, you may feel that you are diversified. But in reality, हो सकता है that those 10 securities may be belonging to similar or related industries. Or most of them belong to similar or related industries. But just because of the number, कि 10 different companies है या 10 different shares है, you are diversifying in a very naive manner. Investing in the familiar, as clear as it is, कि जो भी names आप सुने हो, जो भी मतलब names which you interact with or names which you come across daily, or companies where you are working or companies where family members are working, so you feel more connected to them, you feel more familiar to them, and that's why you tend to invest more in them. Excessive trading. There are people who are very impatient in nature, so they can be a victim of excessive trading because they cannot sit idle. They do not have the patience to hold on to investments, so they will keep on buying, selling, buying, selling, buying, selling. And in this, number one, a lot of costs are involved. Number two, in this process ऐसा हो सकता है कि they might sell off things at a high price but not keep it long enough to get an even better price, and they might hang on to losing investments. क्योंकि क्या हो रहा है कि for example, if you have a portfolio of, let's say, 10 instruments या 10 companies, वो 10 companies में से कोई company अगर बहुत अच्छा कर रहा है, तो instead of hanging on to it, you might just sell it off. But after you sell it off, it increases more and more. But अगर कोई company at the same time है जो कि lose कर रहे money, it is losing your money, but you still do not sell it off because it is giving you losses. So that is excessive trading. Home bias is कि आप अपने home territory में या domestic country या domestic situation में जो instruments है उनको आप उनकी तरफ आप ज़्यादा biased होगे. Okay. Then lastly we have roles and positions in the investment industry, which is not important. इसका हम लोग detail में बाद में बहुत detail में करेंगे of all the different departments that are there. This is structure of SS7, which is again not required. Okay. So that completes the first chapter on introduction. It is just an overview of all the things, a lot of the things which we will be requiring in the later chapters. So my suggestion would be कि after the class, just go through it once. Go through it once ताकि आपको एक idea लगे कि क्या सब है. Okay. Chapter 2 is not very big, लेकिन I would like to do it in the next class. पहले ये एक chapter कर लो अच्छे से. Do the summary well, do the questions at the back well, because SS7 mein, as you know, there are no revision booklets. So you'll have to first do the content very well and then move on to paper solving. Okay? Any doubts anywhere?
Yeah, I just want to go through the chapter once and then we'll get back for doubts, etc.
Yes, that's for sure. But anything जो अभी crop up हुआ, no.
And I'll be talking.
Great. Okay. So then I'll see you all next week. Thank you so much, all of you.